She was dying under that bridge when the black Maybach flew off the road and punched through the guardrail like it was paper. Ivy Sullivan had exactly $4 in her pocket, pneumonia in her lungs, and one thought in her frozen brain: let him drown. The man behind the wheel was Vincent Castellano, the devil of Manhattan, a killer who'd buried more men than most people have cousins. And yet 30 seconds later, she was in the water. What she pulled out of that river would flip her life upside down in ways nobody saw coming. If this story moves you, please take 1 second to subscribe. It helps more than you know. And drop the name of the city you're watching from in the comments below. I love seeing where in the world this story is reaching. Now stay with me to the end, because the twist in this one, you will not believe. The rain had been falling for 11 straight hours, and Ivy Sullivan had stopped noticing it somewhere around the 7th. She was 29 years old, though anyone passing her under that concrete bridge on the east side of the river would have sworn she was 45. Her hands were wrapped in strips of grocery bag plastic. Her boots, if you could call them boots, were 2 different sizes, both donated, neither hers originally. Her cough had turned wet 3 days ago, and she knew what that meant. She'd watched her mother go out the same way when she was 15. She wasn't scared of dying. She was scared of dying and nobody noticing. "Sullivan, get up!" The voice cut through the rain like a blade. Ivy didn't look up. She knew that voice the way a beaten dog knows the sound of a belt buckle. Detective Michael Grady, 43 years old, 22 years on the force. A man who had never once in his life made peace with the fact that people like Ivy existed in his city. "I said get up," he repeated. And this time his boot nudged the garbage bag she was using as a pillow. "You're not supposed to be under this bridge. We had a conversation about this 2 weeks ago, remember?" "I remember," Ivy whispered. "Then why are you still here?" "Because I got nowhere else, sir." Grady crouched down. The rain dripped off the brim of his cap onto her face. He didn't apologize. He didn't move. "You know what your problem is, Sullivan," he said. "You think the world owes you something. It doesn't. The world doesn't owe a damn thing to people who gave up." Ivy finally lifted her eyes. There was no anger in them. That was what made Grady hate her more than the other ones. The anger he could handle. The quiet, the way she just absorbed every word like it was rain that got under his skin. "I didn't give up, sir," she said softly. "I just ran out." "Ran out of what?" "Of people." Grady stood up fast, like the answer had touched something he didn't want touched. He turned his back on her and spoke to the rain. "You got until I finish this coffee," he said, holding up a paper cup. "Then I'm calling a unit, and you're spending the night in a cell. You hear me?" "Yes, sir. I mean it this time." "Yes, sir." He took one slow sip, then another. The cup was already half empty when he took it out of the cruiser. He was giving her about 90 seconds, and he knew it, and she knew it, and neither of them said anything about it. Ivy pushed herself up on hands that didn't want to obey. Her knees screamed. Her chest burned. She reached for the black trash bag that held everything she owned in the world. 2 shirts, a photograph of her brother, a chipped ceramic angel her mother had given her when she was 8 and 47. Empty aluminum cans that she planned to cash in tomorrow morning for about $1.80. That $1.80 was supposed to be dinner. "Where you gonna go?" Sullivan, Grady asked without turning around. "Don't know yet. There's a shelter on 86th. They turned me away last night. Said I was sick. So get unsick." She almost laughed. It came out as a cough that folded her in half. Grady finally turned. For 1/2 of 1 second, something passed behind his eyes that might have been guilt, or tiredness, or the memory of somebody he used to love. Then it was gone and his face was hard again. "Move," he said. She moved. She was maybe 15 feet from the bridge when she heard it. Not with her ears first, but in her chest, the way you feel a subway coming before you see it. A high, whining engine running way too hot, way too fast, tires screaming against wet pavement. And then a horn, long and panicked, from somewhere up on the road that crossed the river 100 yards north. Grady heard it too. His whole body changed. The cop came back into him. What the hell? The headlights came around the bend sideways. A long black car, low and heavy, already out of control, already sliding. It hit the guardrail at maybe 70 miles an hour, and the guardrail did what cheap city guardrails do. It bent, it groaned, and then it let go. The Maybach launched off the road like something out of a nightmare. For 1 full second, it was just hanging there in the rain upside down, its headlights spinning across the black water. Then it hit. The sound wasn't loud. That's what Ivy remembered later. She thought a car hitting a river would be loud, but it wasn't. It was just a deep, wet swallowing noise, like the river had been waiting for that exact car its entire life. Jesus Christ, Grady said. He grabbed his radio. He started shouting codes and numbers Ivy didn't understand. The car was already going under. The back end was sticking up at an angle, and then the angle was getting smaller, and then, "There's somebody in there," Ivy said. "What? There's somebody in the car?" "Yeah, no kidding, there's somebody in the car." "Back up, Sullivan. Units are coming." "How long?" "What? How long till the units get here?" Grady looked at her. 8 minutes, maybe 6. Ivy looked at the water. "He doesn't have 6 minutes," she said. And this is the part she could never explain to anyone afterward, not to Vincent, not to his men, not even to herself. She dropped the trash bag. She dropped the 47 cans. She dropped the $1.80 dinner. She dropped her whole life, what was left of it, right there in the mud. And she ran. Sullivan. Grady's voice cracked behind her like a rifle shot. She didn't stop. Her plastic-wrapped boots hit the rocks on the bank, and then she was in the air, and then she was in the water, and the cold was so total, so absolute, that for one full second her heart simply stopped beating. Then it started again, and it was running for its life. "Sullivan, get out of there, Sullivan." She couldn't hear him anymore. The river had her. It was pulling her south faster than she could think. She fought her way toward the sinking car, each stroke burning a month's worth of strength out of lungs that didn't have a month's worth to give. She hit the side of the Maybach with her shoulder and almost blacked out from the pain. Her hand found a door handle. She pulled. Locked. Of course it was locked. Rich people lock everything. She pounded on the window. Through the glass, she could see him, a big man, broad shoulders in a black suit. His head was against the airbag, and there was blood coming down from somewhere above his eye, and his eyes were closed, and he was not moving. "Hey," she said to the glass. "Hey. Hey." Nothing. The water was up to the middle of his chest now and rising fast. Ivy looked around in pure stupid desperation. Her hands were going numb. Her vision was tunneling. And then she saw a chunk of broken guardrail floating and turning in the current, maybe 10 feet from her, a piece of metal about the size of her forearm with a bolt sticking out of one end. She swam for it. She got it. She came back. She had one good swing in her. She knew that. Her body was already shutting down. She was going to get one shot at that window, and if she missed, or if the glass held, she and the man in the car were both going to the bottom of that river together. She thought very clearly about her mother. She thought, "I'm coming, Mama." And she swung. The bolt hit the glass, and the glass exploded inward in a white burst, and the river poured in, and the man inside finally moved. His eyes opened. They were the color of wet slate. They were the eyes of a man who had been ready to die and was now suddenly not sure. Well, he tried to say. Water hit his mouth. He coughed. "Who give me your hand?" He didn't give her his hand. He stared at her like she was a hallucination, like he was trying to figure out if he had already died, and this was whatever came next. "Mister, your hand now." Something in her voice got through. He reached. His hand was enormous. Hers was a child's hand wrapped in torn plastic. She grabbed him and she pulled, and he came maybe 3 inches through the broken window before his suit jacket caught on something and held him. "No," she said. No, seatbelt," he rasped. "What? I'm still in the seat." She had missed the seatbelt. Of course she had missed the seatbelt. Her whole body was shaking so hard, her teeth were chattering in 2 different rhythms. She went under. Inside the cabin of the Maybach, it was black and green and freezing, and there was barely any air left, and she found his chest by feel. Her fingers walked down his ribs. She found the strap. She followed it to the buckle. Her fingers were so numb she couldn't feel the release button. She had to find it with her fingernail. It clicked. She came up for air and got half a breath in a mouthful of river and went back down. She got both hands under his arms, and she pulled with everything she had left, which was not much. And he slid out of the window slow as a birth, and then they were both in the open water together, sinking. "Kick," she gasped. "Mr. Kick, I'm trying, kick!" They kicked. They weren't going anywhere. The current had them. The bank was 30 feet away and may as well have been 30 miles. On the shore, Grady was in the water up to his thighs, shouting into his radio, shouting her name, shouting at God. He couldn't swim. He had never learned. He was 43 years old and he had never learned to swim, and it had never mattered until right now. Sullivan, grab on. He was holding out his nightstick. She saw it. She tried. She missed. Again. She tried again. She got it. He pulled. The man, Vincent Castellano, though she did not yet know his name, did not know what he was, did not know what her life had just become, was like pulling a dead horse out of a swamp. She couldn't hold him and hold the nightstick both. She was losing him. He was slipping back. I got you. He suddenly said, his voice right next to her ear, thick and slurred and alive. Girl, I got you. Don't let go of that stick. You hear me? You don't let go. I'm not letting go, she whispered. Say it louder. I'm not letting go. He was holding onto the back of her coat now. Somehow, somewhere, he had found one last piece of strength. Grady was pulling. Vincent was holding. Ivy was the chain in the middle, and the chain was a 29-year-old woman with pneumonia who weighed 96 pounds, soaking wet, which she currently was. They came up onto the mud in pieces. First Ivy, then Vincent dragged by his grip on her coat. Grady collapsed backward into the rocks, swearing at the sky. For maybe 20 seconds, none of them moved. The only sounds were the rain and 3 sets of lungs trying to remember how to work. Then Vincent Castellano rolled onto his side and looked at the woman who had just pulled him out of the river. Who, he said, are you? Ivy couldn't answer. She was coughing up water and something pink that wasn't water. Sir Grady cut in already back in cop mode. Don't move. There's a unit 2 minutes out. Don't shut up, Vincent said without looking at him. It was not said loudly. It was not said meanly. It was said the way a man might tell a dog to sit. And Grady Hardmean, 22-year veteran Detective Michael Grady, shut up. Vincent reached out. His hand was the size of Ivy's face. He touched her cheek just once, very gently, like he was checking to see if she was real. You, he whispered, are not supposed to exist. Ivy's eyes were closing. The last of her strength was gone. She had used every drop of it, and there was nothing left in the tank, not one single thing. I'm sorry, she heard herself say. She didn't know why she was apologizing. It just came out. Sorry for what? For the window. Your car. I broke your window. Vincent Castellano, the Devil of Manhattan, a man who had personally ordered the deaths of 14 human beings and signed off on at least 60 more, stared at the homeless woman in his arms and did something he had not done in 21 years. He laughed. It was a broken, wet, half-crying laugh. It shook his whole chest. The window, he said. She's sorry about the window, Sir Grady started again. What's her name, Vincent asked. Officer? What is her name? Sullivan, Ivy Sullivan. She's a vagrant, sir. She's been Ivy, Vincent repeated as if testing the word. Somewhere up on the road, sirens were finally coming. Red and blue lights were starting to bleed through the rain. Ivy, Vincent said again. He leaned down close to her ear, close enough that only she could hear him. His voice was very quiet and very steady, and had something in it that she had not heard directed at her in so long that she didn't at first recognize what it was. It was a promise. You saved my life tonight, Vincent Castellano whispered. Nobody has ever done that before. Do you understand me? Nobody. Every person who has ever tried to get close to me has tried to take something. You are the first. You are the first one. Ivy's eyes were already closed. I'm going to find out who you are, he said. I am going to find out where you came from. I am going to find out why a girl who looks like she weighs nothing went into that water for a man she has never met. And whatever you need, Ivy Sullivan, for the rest of your life, you will never need it again. Ivy heard him somewhere far away, the way you hear somebody talking in the next room when you're falling asleep. She wanted to tell him he didn't have to do that. She wanted to tell him she didn't do it for a reward. She didn't even really do it for him. She did it because her mother had raised her too, and because her brother had died alone, and because somewhere deep inside the wreck of her life there was still a girl who believed you don't let a person drown. But she couldn't get any of that out. The last thing she felt before the dark took her was the weight of Vincent Castellano's jacket being pulled off his shoulders and laid across her chest. It was soaked through and freezing, and it still smelled like expensive cologne. And it was the first thing anyone had given her in 3 years that wasn't out of pity. Then she was gone. When the paramedics got to them, Grady was on his knees doing compressions. Vincent was sitting up, one hand on Ivy's wrist, counting her pulse under his breath, refusing to let anyone touch her until he counted 10 in a row. Sir, we need to... One more, Vincent said. Sir, one more. They got one more, he let them take her. He watched them load her into the ambulance. He watched them close the doors. He watched the ambulance pull away into the rain with the woman who had no idea, none in the world, what she had just walked into. A second vehicle had already pulled up behind the police cruisers. It was black and it was quiet and it did not have any markings. Two men in suits got out of it. They did not acknowledge the police. The police did not acknowledge them. One of them walked up to Vincent and held out a phone. "Boss, they're asking if you're alive." Vincent took the phone. He looked at the taillights of the ambulance disappearing around the bend. "Tell them I'm alive," he said, "and tell them we have a problem." "What problem, boss?" Vincent Castellano watched the ambulance go. "The problem," he said quietly, "is that I owe somebody." And on the other end of the phone, a man who had worked for the Castellano family for 31 years went very, very still. Because in all those 31 years, he had never once, not one single time, heard Vincent Castellano use the word "oh." The ambulance doors slammed shut, and the siren went on, and inside that cramped little metal box, Ivy Sullivan's heart stopped beating for the first time. "She's flatlining, charged to 200 BP is gone." "I got nothing." Charging clear, her body jumped on the gurney. Nothing. The line on the monitor stayed flat as a prairie road. Again, 300. Clear, the paramedic working on her was 26 years old. His name was Danny Ortiz, and he had been on the job for 14 months, and he had never lost a patient yet, and he was not going to lose this one tonight. Not this skinny woman in the plastic-wrapped boots, who apparently had just pulled a man twice her size out of a freezing river. "Come on, sweetheart," he muttered. Come on, you didn't do all that just to quit on me now. Clear?" Her body jumped again. A single beep. Then another, then a slow, ragged rhythm. "I got her. I got a pulse. Weak, but I got her," the driver shouted back. 4 minutes to county, make it 3. And in the back of that ambulance, as Ivy Sullivan hovered somewhere between the world she knew and whatever comes next, Danny Ortiz leaned down close to her ear and said the thing he always said to the ones he was afraid he was going to lose. "You stay with me, darling. You stay right here with Danny. There's people looking for you. You hear me? There's people looking for you." He didn't know how right he was, because back at the river, Vincent Castellano was already on his second phone call. "I don't care what time it is, Marco. Wake him up. I want Dr. Feldman at county in 15 minutes, not 2015, and I want him in the ER personally." Yes, tonight. She's in Bay 4 or wherever the hell they take drownings. She is not to be touched by any intern, any resident, any med student with a clipboard. Feldman. Only Feldman. He listened for 3 seconds. "No, Marco. You are not hearing me. I don't want her treated well. I want her treated like she is my mother." "Are we clear?" He hung up. A cop was trying to get his attention, something about a statement, something about paperwork. Vincent didn't even turn his head. "Officer, what's your name?" "Grady, sir. Detective Grady." "Grady, look at me." Grady looked. "The woman you were about to arrest tonight just saved my life. You understand what I'm saying to you, hey, sir? I want to know everything about her. Where she sleeps, who her people are, what she was doing under that bridge, what her full legal name is. I want it in an hour, and I want it brought to me personally, and you are going to be the one to bring it. Do you have any problem with that?" Detective Grady's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. "No, sir." "Good." Vincent turned away. Then as an afterthought, he turned back. "And detective." "Yes, sir." "Whatever you said to her tonight under that bridge before all of this happened, I want you to remember it. Word for word. Because someday when you're lying in a bed somewhere and you're trying to account for your life, that conversation is going to be one of the things you think about. I'm telling you that now so you can start thinking about it early." He walked away. Grady stood in the rain for a long time after the black car took Vincent Castellano away into the night. He stood there until the red and blue lights were gone. He stood there until the tow truck crew started winching the Maybach out of the river. He stood there until a younger officer tapped him on the shoulder and asked if he was okay. "Yeah," Grady heard himself say. "Yeah, I'm fine." He wasn't fine. He was not going to be fine for a long, long time. Because Detective Michael Grady had just realized something that he had somehow managed to avoid realizing for 22 years. The homeless people he had been running off corners and out from under bridges for 2 decades, they weren't a type. They weren't a problem to be managed. They were people, Every single one of them was somebody's child. And one of them, a woman he had been standing over 90 seconds ago telling her the world didn't owe her anything, had just jumped into a river to save a man she didn't know, while he, Detective Michael Grady, stood on the bank and didn't jump in because he had never learned how to swim. He got in his cruiser. He didn't drive anywhere. He just sat there with his hands on the wheel and he watched the rain hit the windshield. Then he picked up his radio. "Dispatch, this is Grady. I need a full pull on a Jane Doe, no correction. Her name is Ivy Sullivan, white female, approximately 5'4", approximately 90 to 100 pounds, last known location under the 19th Street overpass. I need everything. Pryor's family medical, everything. And dispatch, I need it fast." "Detective, that's going to take a minute." "Any particular reason for the rush?" Grady looked out at the river. "Yeah," he said, "there's a reason." While Grady was starting to dig, another man 15 blocks away was also starting to dig, but for very different reasons. His name was Salvatore Rizzo. He was 61 years old, had worked for the Castellano family for 31 of those years, and was at the moment standing in the study of a brownstone on the Upper East Side, staring at a phone that had just gone dead in his hand. Across the room, a second man, younger, thinner, a lawyer named Petrov, watched him carefully. "Sal, what did he say?" "He said he owes somebody." Petrov's face didn't move, didn't change at all, but his pupils shrank to pinpoints. He said, "What? You heard me? Vincent Castellano said he owes someone." "I'm telling you what the man said." Petrov set down his glass very carefully, like if he set it down too hard, it was going to explode. "Sal, listen to me. In 31 years, has Vincent ever used that word? No. Then either he hit his head a lot harder than we think, or the situation is a lot more serious than we think. The situation," Sal said, "is that somebody tried to kill him tonight." Petrov's glass froze halfway to his lips. "Tonight, you mean the crash, Sal? That was the rain. That was the road that was not the rain." Sal pulled a phone out of his coat pocket and set it on the desk. "I had Luca go look at the Maybach the second they pulled it out. The brake line was cut. Not all the way. Just enough. Just clever enough that with the rain, nobody was ever going to look twice at it." Petrov sat down. "Oh my God. Yeah, who? I don't know yet." "Sal, who?" "I said I don't know yet, counselor. Somebody close. Somebody who knew his route. Somebody who had access to that car in the last 72 hours. That's maybe 6 people in the entire world." "I know. One of those 6s, I know who one of those 6 is." Neither of them said the name out loud. They didn't have to. Petrov rubbed his face with both hands. "What do we do?" "We do nothing," Sal said. "For right now, we do absolutely nothing, because Vincent doesn't know about the brake line yet, and I am not going to be the one to tell him tonight, because tonight the only thing in Vincent Castellano's head is a girl. A girl? Homeless, skinny, some kid under a bridge, pulled him out of the river. He's at the hospital right now, arranging private doctors." Petrov stared at him. "Sal, please tell me you're joking." "Do I look like I'm joking, counselor? A homeless girl pulled Vincent out of a sinking Maybach in the middle of a river, in the rain. That's what I'm telling you. How I don't know. How, Sal?" "I don't know, Petrov. Nobody knows. The guys from patrol said it shouldn't have been possible. The window was shattered from the outside. She got the seatbelt off underwater. She got him to the bank. She weighs about as much as my coat, and she dragged 220 pounds of sedated Mafia boss up a mud bank in a flood." The lawyer was quiet for a long moment. Then he said very quietly, "Sal, this is bad. Yeah, this is very bad. Yeah, I'm aware. You know why this is bad. Tell me why you think it's bad, and we'll see if we got the same reason." Petrov leaned forward, "Because whoever cut that brake line is about to find out that Vincent Castellano did not die. And the second they find that out, the second question they're going to ask is who pulled him out. And the second that answer comes back, a homeless girl with no family, with nobody looking for her. Nobody to ask questions if she disappears." "Yeah," Sal said quietly. "That was my reason too." "She's a loose end, Sal. She's a loose end. She's the only loose end. I know. Does Vincent know?" Sal Rizzo looked out the rain-streaked window at the lights of Manhattan. "Vincent," he said, "is about to know a lot of things he's not going to like." At that exact moment, 2 miles across town, Vincent Castellano was walking down a hospital corridor at a pace that made nurses get out of the way without being asked. Two men in suits walked behind him. A third walked ahead. A cut above his eye had been hastily taped shut. He had refused stitches. He had refused an X-ray. He had refused a CT scan. The only thing he had agreed to was the ride. A doctor in green scrubs stepped in front of him. "Mr. Castellano, sir, you cannot go into that room. She is not stable. Is she alive, sir? Is she alive? She is alive, sir, but she is, then I'm going in, sir." She coded twice in the ambulance. Vincent stopped walking. He turned very slowly and he looked at the doctor, and something came into his face that made the doctor, a 42-year-old man with an MD from Columbia and 12 years of ER experience, take a physical step backward. "She coded," Vincent said twice. "Yes, sir. Her heart, she has advanced pneumonia, sir. Her body was already compromised before the water. She is severely malnourished. Her lungs are..." "When did she eat last? Excuse me? When did she eat last? Sir, I don't have that information. Sir, I find out." The doctor opened his mouth, closed it, nodded, walked away. Vincent pushed open the door of room 412. She looked smaller than he remembered. In the river, she had felt like something powerful, something elemental, a force that had reached into the water and pulled him out of the dark. Here in the blue-white hospital light, with her wet hair combed away from her face and a tube in her arm and another tube in her nose, she looked like a child. He pulled a chair up to the bed. He sat down. He did not speak. He stayed there for 4 hours. His men stood outside the door. They took turns. They did not let any nurse in without checking her ID. At one point, a cleaning woman with a mop cart tried to come in and was politely, firmly turned away. A janitor at a New York hospital had never been frisked before. That night he was. At 3:17 in the morning, Ivy Sullivan opened her eyes. She did not know where she was. She did not remember the river. She did not, for the first full 10 seconds of consciousness, remember her own name. Then she saw him. The big man, black suit, wet, wrinkled, cut on his forehead, sitting in a chair that was much too small for him, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, watching her. "Oh," she whispered, "you lived." Vincent Castellano's shoulders dropped about 3 inches. "Yeah," he said, and his voice was thick, and it wasn't from the cold. "Yes, sweetheart, I lived." "Good." She tried to sit up. A hand is pressed very gently on her shoulder and kept her where she was. "No, you don't sit up. You don't do anything. The doctor says you don't even sneeze without permission." "I don't ask doctors for permission to sneeze." He almost smiled. "Ivy, is that really your name?" "That's my name." "Ivy what, Sullivan?" "Where are you from, Ivy Sullivan?" "Around." "Around where?" "Just around." He studied her face. She was not lying to him exactly. She just wasn't giving. And he realized sitting there that this woman had probably been asked her name by strangers 1,000 times in the last 3 years. And 999 of them had been asking because they wanted something from her or wanted to run her off of something. She didn't know yet that this time was different. He was going to have to teach her. "Ivy," he said, "my name is Vincent." "Okay, just Vincent. For right now, that's all you need." "Okay, Vincent. I need you to listen to me very carefully. You are in a hospital. You are safe. You are being treated by the best doctor in this city because I pay him a lot of money. And I woke him up and told him he had exactly 15 minutes to get to this building. You are not going to be moved. You are not going to be discharged. You are not going to see a bill. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" "No," he blinked. "No, I don't understand any of that. I don't know you. I don't know where I am. I pulled a man out of a river because he was drowning, and now I'm in a hospital, and a strange man in a suit is telling me I don't have to pay. I don't understand any of it." Vincent leaned back. "Fair," he said. "Who are you, Vincent?" He considered lying to her. He considered for about a second and a half telling her he was just a guy, a businessman, someone grateful. He opened his mouth to do it, and then he closed it because this woman had just spent the last 6 hours dying for him, and he would be damned if the first thing he did in return was lie to her face. "I'm somebody," he said slowly, "who a lot of people are afraid of." "Okay, you're not afraid. Mister, look at me. I got nothing. I got nothing. You think I'm scared of you? You think there's anything you can take from me that the world hasn't already?" Something moved behind his eyes. "No," he said softly. "I guess there isn't." "So what do you want, Vincent? I want to know why." "Why what?" Why you jumped? She was quiet for a long time, long enough that he thought she had fallen back asleep. Then very quietly she said, my brother drowned. Vincent didn't move. He was 19, she said. I was 22. We were at a lake. He went under. There were 12 people on that shore and not one of them went in after him. 12 people, Vincent. They stood there. They watched my brother Thomas drown and not one of them moved. Her eyes were dry. There were no tears left in her for that story. I promised myself, she said, that I would never be one of those 12 people, ever, for anybody. That's all. That's why I jumped. There's no other reason. I'm sorry if you wanted a better one. Vincent Castellano sat in that chair and he looked at the woman in the bed, and for the second time in 6 hours, something was happening in his chest that he did not have a name for. He reached out. He took her hand. It was cold and it was thin, and he could feel every bone in it. Ivy, he said, yeah, when you get out of this hospital, you are not going back under that bridge. Vincent, listen to me. You are not going back under that bridge. You are not going back to that life. Not tomorrow, not next week, not ever. Do you hear me? I can't just, yes, you can. You saved my life. I get to give you one back. That's how this works. That's not how anything works. It is now. She looked at him. She looked at him the way people look at something they don't quite believe they are actually seeing. And outside, down the hall, past the 2 men in suits guarding her door, past the elevator, past the hospital doors, in a car parked across the street with its lights off and its engine running. A man was sitting with a pair of binoculars watching room 412. He had been watching for an hour. He had watched Vincent go in. He had watched a doctor go in. He had watched a nurse come out with a chart. Now he picked up a phone. Yeah, he said, he's alive. Walked into the building under his own power. He listened. I know what I was told. But he's alive, and there's a girl, some girl, room 412. He's been in there 4 hours. He listened again. His jaw tightened. Understood, he said. Yeah, I'll handle it. He set down the binoculars. He reached into the glove compartment, and he pulled out a photograph, a grainy, rain-blurred still from a traffic camera. A photograph of a small, fragile figure in a ragged coat dragging a man twice her size out of a black river. He looked at the photograph for a long time. Then he said to nobody, to himself, to the dark inside that car, sorry, sweetheart. And he reached into his coat. He pulled out a cigarette. That was all, just a cigarette. The gun stayed where it was because the man in the car, his name was Dominic Reyes, and he had killed for the Castellano family. And against the Castellano family, both depending on who was paying in a given year, was a professional, and a professional didn't walk into a hospital at 3 a.m. with 2 of Vincent Castellano's bodyguards standing outside a door. A professional waited, a professional watched. A professional picked the right moment, and the right moment was not tonight. Tonight, Dominic Reyes had been told one thing. Confirm. That it was all. Confirm Vincent was dead, and if he wasn't dead, stand by for further instructions. He was standing by. He lit the cigarette, and he rolled down the window a crack, and he looked up at the 4th floor window of County General, and he thought about the girl in the photograph, and he thought, you should have let him drown, sweetheart. You really should have let him drown. Upstairs in room 412, Ivy had fallen back asleep. Vincent was still holding her hand. He hadn't meant to still be holding it. He had meant to let go 20 minutes ago when her eyes closed. But every time he started to pull his hand back, her fingers tightened on his. Not much, just a little, the way a sleeping child will hold onto a parent's thumb, and he couldn't make himself do it. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. It buzzed again. He finally carefully eased his hand out of hers. She made a small sound in her sleep. He froze until she settled. Then he walked to the corner of the room and he answered. What? Boss, it's Sal. Yeah, we got a problem. I know we got a problem, Sal. I was in the problem. I was in the river with it. No, boss, we got a bigger problem. Vincent went very still. Talk to me. The car. The Maybach. Luca pulled it out and took it to the shop. He just called me, and brake line was cut. The silence that followed was the kind of silence that has a temperature. It was cold. Say that again, Vincent said. The brake line on your Maybach was cut, boss. Not all the way. Just enough. With the rain, with the hill, it was designed to look like an accident. Somebody tried to kill me. Somebody tried to kill you. Who had access to that car in the last 3 days? I'm working on that right now, Sal. Yeah, boss. Who had access? Boss, I don't want to say a name until I'm sure, Sal. I swear to God. Your brother, boss. Okay, your brother had access, and 5 other guys had access. And I'm not saying it was him, and I'm not saying it wasn't him. I'm saying I need another 12 hours before I hand you a name. Because if I hand you the wrong name tonight, you're going to put a bullet in somebody who didn't do it, and then I'm going to have 2 problems to clean up instead of 1. Vincent closed his eyes. His brother, Anthony, younger by 6 years, had been asking for about 18 months now when Vincent was going to start letting him take on more, had been drinking more, had been disappearing for days at a time, had a new girlfriend Vincent didn't trust, had bought a boat Vincent couldn't figure out where the money came from. Vincent had known, somewhere under everything for months he had known. He just hadn't wanted to know. 12 hours, he said. 12 hours? Sal. Yeah, boss. There's a car outside this hospital right now. Across the street. Engine running, lights off. I clocked it on the way in and I clocked it again when I went to the window 10 minutes ago. You tell the guys on the door. You tell them nobody goes in and out of this hallway without being checked. You tell them if that car is still there in an hour, somebody goes and has a conversation with the driver. Polite, but thorough. Understood. And Sal? Yeah. The girl. Yeah, she doesn't leave my sight. Not until I know what I'm dealing with. Boss, with respect, you can't sit in a hospital room for 12 hours. Watch me. He hung up. Down the hall, the elevator dinged. A nurse stepped off, pushing a small cart. One of Vincent's men, a big kid from Queens named Rocco, stepped into her path. Evening, ma'am. I'm going to need to see the ID. I'm sorry. I'm just bringing Miss Sullivan's medication. Yeah, I hear you. ID. She fumbled for her badge. Rocco took it. He studied it the way most people don't study IDs. He looked at the badge and then at her face and then at the badge again. Then he pulled out his phone and he took a picture of the badge and he sent it to a number that did not belong to the New York Police Department. You mind waiting a minute, ma'am? I have other patients. 1 minute, ma'am. Appreciate you. The phone in his hands buzzed. He read the screen. He looked at her again. Something in his eyes changed. Ma'am, he said very quietly. Who hired you? I work here, ma'am. You started at this hospital 11 days ago. You transferred in from a clinic in New Jersey that I just had a friend call, and the clinic says they've never heard of you. Now, I'm going to ask you one more time. Who hired you? The nurse, who was not a nurse, moved very fast. Her hand went into the pocket of her scrubs. Rocco's hand got there first. He had her wrist locked behind her back before she finished the motion. Something small and metal hit the hospital floor and bounced twice. It was a syringe. Inside room 412, Vincent heard the commotion. He was at the door before the second bounce. Boss, we're clear. We're clear. I got her. Vincent looked down at the syringe on the floor. He looked at the woman pinned against the wall. He looked at Rocco. Take her downstairs, Vincent said. Quietly. Service elevator. She does not make a sound. I want to know who she works for before the sun comes up. Yes, boss. And Rocco. Yeah. Good job. Thank you, boss. Vincent went back into the room. He closed the door. He leaned against it for a second with his eyes shut, and he let himself feel just for a second what had almost happened. Somebody had just tried to kill Ivy Sullivan in her sleep in a hospital bed with a needle, while Vincent Castellano sat 4 feet away holding her hand. In her sleep, she whispered something. He couldn't tell what. He walked to the bed. He sat back down. Sweetheart, he said softly to the sleeping woman, I am so sorry. I am so sorry I brought this to you. She didn't answer. She wouldn't have understood if she had. At 6:30 in the morning, Detective Grady walked into the hospital with a folder under his arm. Rocco stopped him. Grady showed his badge. Rocco looked at the badge, looked at Grady, got on the phone, waited, hung up. Boss says you can go in. Boss says you go in alone and you give me what you brought and I give it to him and you stand in the hall. That's not how this usually, that's how this is today, Detective, with respect. Grady handed over the folder. Inside room 412, Vincent opened it. He was quiet for a long time. He went through the pages slowly. Some of them he read twice. When he was done, he set the folder on his knee and he stared at the wall. Ivy Sullivan, 29 years old, born in a small town in western Pennsylvania, high school graduate class of 2014. Attended nursing school at Penn State for 1.5 years nursing school, Vincent noted before withdrawing. One older brother, Thomas Sullivan, deceased age 19, drowning. Mother Margaret Sullivan, deceased at 43, complications from pneumonia. Father, and here Vincent's jaw tightened, Robert Sullivan, currently incarcerated in Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution at Rockview, serving 16 to 30 for second-degree aggravated assault. The victim of that assault had been Ivy. She had been 16. No current address. Last known address, a women's shelter in the Bronx 22 months ago. Before that, a motel in Newark. Before that, another shelter. Before that. She had been on the street for 3 years, 4 months, and 11 days. No priors, no arrests, not even a loitering ticket. 3 years on the street, and this woman hadn't not once, broken the law enough to earn herself a bed in a warm cell for the night. Vincent closed the folder. He looked at her, sleeping in the bed. Nursing school. She had been studying to take care of people. She had watched her mother die of pneumonia, and she had gone to school to learn how to keep that from happening to anybody else, and life had broken her in half before she ever got to finish. And then at 29, dying under a bridge, she had jumped into a river to save a man she'd never met. Vincent Castellano, who had not cried since he was 9 years old, felt his throat close up. He pulled out his phone. "Marco, it's me. I need you to find a woman. Her name is Catherine Walsh. She runs a women's shelter in the Bronx, the one on Hoffman Avenue. 22 months ago, a young woman named Ivy Sullivan stayed there. I want to know everything Catherine Walsh knows about her. I want to know what Ivy said. I want to know what she ate. I want to know if she cried. I want to know if she laughed. I want to know if she ever mentioned a single human being on this earth who loved her." Pause. "Yes, Marco, that is what I said. I want to know if anybody loved her. Go find out." He hung up. Ivy's eyes fluttered open. "Vincent, I'm here. You look sad." He tried to smile. "I don't do sad, sweetheart. Whatever you say. How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a truck full of trucks. That sounds about right." She turned her head a little so she could see him better. "What's in the folder?" "Nothing." "Liar. Go back to sleep, Ivy. It's about me, isn't it?" He didn't answer. "Vincent, did you have somebody look me up?" "Yes." "Why? Because I needed to know who you were." "You could have asked me. Would you have told me?" She thought about it. Then she said no. "Right. What does it say in there, Vincent?" "It says a lot of things that are not my business, and I am very sorry I know them." Ivy was quiet for a long time. Then very softly she said, "Does it say my father almost killed me when I was 16? "Yes." "Does it say my brother drowned when I was 22? "Yes." "Does it say my mama died when I was 25? "Yes." "And does it say I was supposed to be a nurse?" He closed his eyes. "Yes." "Okay," she said. And Vincent Castellano would remember this for the rest of his life. She smiled. A small, tired, real smile. "Well, at least now I don't have to tell you." "Ivy, it's okay, Vincent. It's okay. I don't cry about any of it anymore. I used all my crying up a long time ago. I'm tired. That's all. I'm just very tired." He took her hand again. "Ivy, listen to me. I'm listening. Somebody tried to hurt you last night. In this room. While you were sleeping. I'm telling you because I don't want to lie to you, and I'm not going to lie to you, not ever. A woman came in here with a needle. My man stopped her. She's downstairs. We're finding out who sent her." Ivy blinked. "Somebody tried to hurt me." "Yes, me. Specifically. Yes, because of me. Because you saved me. There are people who would rather I was at the bottom of that river, and now you're a witness to the fact that I'm not. That makes you a problem for them. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "I understand. I am so sorry, Ivy." "Vincent, yeah, stop apologizing. You didn't do it. I did it. I jumped in. I knew you were somebody. I saw the car. Nobody drives a car like that unless there's somebody. I jumped anyway. This is on me. It's not on you. It's on me. And I'd do it again." She said it so simply, so plainly, like she was telling him the weather. "I'd do it again." And Vincent Castellano, who had spent his entire adult life being feared, being obeyed, being hated, being whispered about, sat in that chair and realized he was in the presence of something he had genuinely never encountered before in any human being. She meant it. She would jump again. She would do the whole thing again. Knowing about the needle in the night, knowing about the brake line, knowing who he was, knowing what was coming. She would still jump. He had no idea what to do with that. Ivy, he said carefully, when you leave this hospital, there is a house, about 2 hours outside the city. It has walls, it has men, it has doctors. I want you to come there, not forever, just until this is done. Until what's done? Until I know who tried to kill me. And why. And I have handled it. Handled it. Yeah. Vincent, what does handled it mean? It means what it means. Say it. Ivy, say it, Vincent. Because I'm not going to a house with walls and men and doctors if I don't know what I'm agreeing to. I've had enough of not knowing what I was agreeing to. I need you to say it. He looked at her. It means he said that somebody is going to answer for what they did and for what almost happened in this room last night. And once they have answered that, they will not be a problem anymore. For me or for you or for anybody. You're going to kill them. Yes. Is it one person? I don't know yet. Might be more than one. Might be. Ivy looked at the ceiling. Vincent, yeah, I'm not going to tell you not to. He looked at her. I'm not, she said. I won't. I'm a grown woman. I've seen what the world does. I watched a man beat my mother for 14 years and I watched the law do nothing about it. I watched 12 people let my brother drown. I have been under a bridge for 3 years and I have had things done to me I am never going to say out loud to another living human being. So I am not going to sit in this bed and tell you what's right and what's wrong. That's not my job. That's between you and whoever you pray to. Ivy, but I want one thing, Vincent, if I come to your house. If I let you do this, name it when it's over. When all of this is over. Whoever you are and whatever this world is that you live in, I get to walk out. If I want to. No questions. No men at the door. No consequences. You don't own me just because you paid for the hospital bill. You don't own me because I pulled you out of a river. I came in free, Vincent. I stay free. That's the deal. He was quiet for a long, long time. Then he said, deal. Shake on it. He smiled in spite of himself. He took her hand, her cold, thin, exhausted hand, and he shook it. Once, very seriously, like they were closing on a building. Deal, he said again. And somewhere in a dark apartment on the other side of the city, in a room with the blinds drawn and a laptop open, a man was staring at a screen that showed a grainy image of Vincent Castellano sitting beside a hospital bed, holding a homeless woman's hand. The image was coming from a miniature camera embedded in the frame of the hospital room's television. It had been placed there the night before by the woman with the syringe about 10 minutes before she was caught. The man watching the screen was Vincent's brother. Anthony Castellano watched his older brother, the brother he had worshipped when they were boys, the brother he had tried to please his entire life, the brother who had always been better at everything, hold the hand of a nobody. Anthony's jaw worked. He picked up a phone. It didn't work, he said. No, the car thing didn't work. And the nurse thing didn't work. He's got her under guard. He's going to move her to the estate. He listened. I know what you said. But there's something else now. He's different with her. I've never seen him like this. Never. With anyone. This is not a thing where he's grateful and he sends her a check. This is a thing where she ends up in his life. Permanently. He listened again. Longer this time. His face slowly changed. Yeah, he said, finally. Yeah, I hear you. You're right. You're absolutely right. If we can't get her, we get to her through him. We let her in. We let her all the way in. And then when the time is right, we use her. A pause. No, he'll never see it coming because he's already decided she's safe. He's already decided she's the one person in the world he doesn't have to be afraid of. Another pause. And then Anthony Castellano, the younger brother, the forgotten brother, the brother who had just given the order to cut the brake line on his own blood, smiled slow and cold at the screen. That he said is going to be the last mistake he ever makes. Anthony Castellano hung up the phone and he sat in the dark for a long time and he poured himself another drink and he told himself the way men like him have been telling themselves for 1,000 years that what he was doing was not betrayal, it was correction. Vincent had gotten soft. Vincent had always been soft. Everybody in the family knew it, and nobody said it. And now Vincent was about to do the softest thing any Castellano had ever done, drag a homeless woman into the family estate and install her in a bedroom like she was somebody, and somebody had to fix it. Somebody had to be the adult in the room. He took a long pull of the whiskey. It did not taste good. Nothing had tasted good for about 6 months, which was roughly the time he had started planning this. He opened his laptop again. On the screen, his brother was still sitting beside the homeless woman's bed. Anthony stared at the image for a long, long time. And then very quietly to nobody, he said, "I loved you, Vinny." His voice cracked a little on the word loved. "I really, really did." Then he closed the laptop. 4 days later, they moved her. Dr. Feldman did not want it. Dr. Feldman said the words against medical advice 7 different times in 4 different tones of voice. Vincent listened. Vincent nodded. Vincent said, "Doctor, I appreciate you. Move her anyway." Ivy walked out of County General on her own 2 feet. She had refused the wheelchair. She said if she could pull a 200-pound man out of a river, she could walk 40 yards to a car. And she said it in a tone that made Rocco and the other man, Vito, exchange a look that was half amusement and half respect. She was wearing clothes Vincent had bought for her, plain things, a gray sweater, jeans that actually fit, a navy blue coat wool warm, boots that matched. She had not asked for any of it, and she had tried to refuse it, and Vincent had said very quietly, "Ivy, the clothes you came in with had to be thrown away. Please, let me do this one thing." So she let him do that one thing. The car that picked them up was not the Maybach. That car was gone forever at the bottom of some shop in Brooklyn, being taken apart piece by piece by a man named Luca, who wanted to understand for his own peace of mind how somebody had put a cut on a brake line so clean that 3 separate mechanics had missed it before the rain came. The new car was a Suburban, black, armored. 2 more Suburbans, one in front, one behind. Ivy looked at the convoy and she said, "Vincent, this is a lot." "Yes. Is this a lot because of mine?" "This is a lot because of what happened to my car, Ivy." "Oh, get in the car, sweetheart." She got in the car. They drove north for an hour and 40 minutes. Nobody spoke. Ivy watched the city fall away behind her and turn into highways and then into trees. She had not been out of the city in almost 4 years. She had forgotten what trees looked like in winter. She pressed her palm against the cold glass of the window, and she watched the bare branches go by, and somewhere around the Hudson Valley, she started to cry very quietly without any sound at all. Vincent noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything about her. He did not say anything. He just reached across the seat and he took her hand again. He did not look at her. He let her have her tears in private, even though they were in the same car, because he understood somehow, without being told, that a woman who had been watched and judged and moved along for 3 years on the street would not want a man staring at her while she cried. She squeezed his hand back. Once, just a little, he felt it all the way down to his feet. The estate was 22 acres behind a 10-foot wall, 3 gates, 4 cameras per gate, a guardhouse manned 24 hours and 7 men on the grounds at any given time. Ivy saw all of it. She did not say anything. She just filed it away. A woman who has slept under bridges learns to count the exits. Inside the main house, an older woman was waiting in the front hall. 60-something gray hair, pulled back apron over a dark dress. Her name was Teresa. She had worked for the Castellano family for 29 years. She had fed Vincent his first solid food as a baby. She was in every way that mattered the only mother Vincent still had. Teresa looked at Ivy for a full 5 seconds without speaking. Vincent tensed because he knew Teresa, and Teresa was not a woman who pretended. Then Teresa walked forward, and she took Ivy's thin face in both her hands gently, the way you hold something breakable, and she said, "Mi cuore, you poor baby, you come with Teresa. We feed you, we warm you, we put you to bed. You are safe here. You understand me? You are safe here." Ivy's eyes filled up all over again. She had not been called anybody's heart in a very long time. Teresa turned to Vincent with a look that, if Vincent had been 5 years old, would have sent him running to his room. She said in Italian so fast Ivy could not follow a word of it, something that made Vincent straighten up and say, "Yes, Teresa," 3 separate times. Then Teresa took Ivy by the elbow and walked her away. The first 3 weeks in the Castellano estate passed very slowly for Ivy Sullivan and very fast for everybody else. For Ivy, it was like waking up from a long bad dream into a different dream that she did not yet believe was real. She slept in a bed. She ate 3 meals a day. She took hot showers that lasted as long as she wanted them to last. She had clean clothes every morning. Teresa checked on her 6 times a day. Dr. Feldman came twice a week. A physical therapist came 3 times a week. She put on 9 pounds in the first 12 days, and Teresa cried a little the first time the scale moved. Ivy did not know what to do with any of it. She kept waiting for the bill. She kept waiting for somebody to say, "All right, that's enough, get out." She kept flinching when doors opened behind her. She slept in her clothes for the first 6 nights because part of her brain would not stop telling her she might need to run. On the 7th night, she took her clothes off and put on the nightgown Teresa had left folded on the bed. She stood in front of the mirror and looked at herself for a long time. She did not recognize the woman looking back. She sat down on the edge of the bed and she said out loud to the empty room, to her brother, to her mother, to whoever was listening, "What am I doing here?" Nobody answered, but somebody heard. Because the cameras in Ivy's bedroom, 3 of them the size of match heads installed before she ever arrived, were not Vincent's. Vincent did not put cameras in her room. Vincent would have cut off his own hand before he put cameras in her room. Anthony's man had put them there. During the renovation, Anthony had personally supervised 6 weeks before the river because Anthony had been planning this for longer than anyone, even Anthony, fully understood. And on the other end of those cameras, a woman was taking notes. Her name was Elena Vasquez. She was 36 years old. She had been Anthony Castellano's girlfriend for 14 months. She was also, though Anthony did not know this and would not find out until it was far too late, not exactly who she had told him she was. Elena watched Ivy sit on the edge of the bed and whisper to an empty room. And Elena, professional trained, Elena felt something she was not supposed to feel in her line of work. She felt sorry for her. She wrote in her notebook, "Subject is not a plant. Subject is not working for any agency. Subject is exactly what she appears to be. Recommend reassessment." She closed the notebook. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she opened the bottom drawer of her desk and she put the notebook in and she locked the drawer, and she did not send the report to Anthony that night. It was the first time in 14 months she had not sent him a report on schedule. It would not be the last. Meanwhile, down the hall from Ivy's bedroom, Vincent Castellano was not sleeping. He had not slept properly in 11 days. He would lie down for 2 hours. He would get up. He would walk the halls. He would check the guards. He would stand outside Ivy's door for 30 seconds, never more, because he had promised himself he would not become the kind of man who stood outside a woman's door, and then he would go to his study and he would read again the report Sal had finally brought him. The report had a name on it. Vincent had been staring at that name for 3 days. He had not told anybody what he was going to do about it. Not Sal, not Rocco, not Teresa, not Ivy, especially not Ivy. Because the name in the report was Anthony's. Sal had been thorough. Sal had been painstaking. Sal had given Vincent every single piece of evidence in order, dated, sourced, corroborated twice. The brake line, the nurse with the syringe, a wire transfer, a conversation at a restaurant captured by a man at the next table who owed Sal a favor, a photograph of Anthony and a woman Vincent had never seen before coming out of a hotel Anthony had told Vincent he had never been to. Vincent had read it all, and he had poured himself a drink, and he had not drunk the drink. He had just sat and looked at it. His brother, his blood. The kid Vincent had taught how to ride a bike in the alley behind their mother's house. The kid Vincent had carried on his shoulders through 3 Yankees games. The kid who used to crawl into Vincent's bed when there was thunder. That kid had cut his brake line. On the 4th day, Vincent finally walked down to the kitchen at 6 in the morning, and he sat at the table, and Teresa poured him coffee without asking and put a plate in front of him without asking, and then she sat down across from him with her own cup. Teresa said, "Tell me." "Tell you what?" "Tell me what is eating you alive, figlio mio." Vincent stirred his coffee. He said, "Teresa, if somebody you loved, somebody you raised, tried to kill you, what would you do?" Teresa did not flinch. Teresa did not ask which somebody. Teresa had worked for this family for 29 years, and Teresa could do arithmetic. She said, "Vincenzo." "Look at me." He looked. "You listen to old Teresa. You listen good. When I was a little girl in the old country, my own father, he did a thing to my mother, a very bad thing, and my uncle, my mother's brother, he knew. And he did not act. He said he is family. He said blood is blood. And my mother lived the rest of her life in a house with the man who did that thing because her brother would not act. You understand me, Teresa? Blood is not blood, Fiolio. Love is blood. A man who tries to kill you is not your brother anymore. He stopped being your brother the minute he picked up the knife. You do not owe him anything. Not one thing. You understand what I am telling you? Vincent looked down at his coffee. I understand. Good. Teresa, what? I don't want to do it. I know you don't. I really don't want to do it. Filio, that is how I know you are not like your father. You do not want to do it. Your father, he would have already done it and slept like a baby. You suffer. That is how I know there is still something good in you. But you must still do it. Because if you do not do it, Anthony will do it to you first. And then he will do it to that girl upstairs. Vincent's head came up. He would not touch her. Teresa looked at him with the soft, sad patience of a woman who had watched 3 generations of Castellano men lie to themselves about what their family was capable of. Vincenzo, she said gently. He already touched her. He put a needle in a woman's hand and he sent her into that hospital. You think he won't try again? Vincent set down the coffee cup very carefully. Teresa, I need you to do something for me. Anything. I need you to take Ivy somewhere, today. Somewhere nobody knows about. Not the estate, not the city. Somewhere off the books. Until this is over. I can do that. You don't ask me where. I don't ask you where. You just go. I just go. And Teresa, yes, if anything happens to me, if I don't come back, you do not bring her back to this house, ever. You give her the envelope in the safe. You know the one. You send her somewhere warm. You tell her I said I'm sorry. Teresa's eyes filled up. Vincenzo, don't talk like that. Teresa, promise me. I promise. He stood up. He kissed her on top of her head the way he had done since he was 7 years old. He walked out. Teresa sat at the kitchen table and held her coffee cup with both hands, and she cried without making a sound because she was a woman who had learned a very long time ago how to cry without making a sound. Ivy came downstairs an hour later. Teresa had wiped her face. Teresa was making breakfast. Teresa said very cheerfully, Tesoro, eat fast. You and I, we go on a little trip today. Just us girls. Vincent, he has business. He says we go to the beach house, we walk on the sand, we get some color in those cheeks. Yes, Ivy sat down slowly. Teresa, yes, baby. Something is wrong. Nothing is wrong, Teresa. Look at me, something is wrong. Teresa turned around. Teresa was too old and too tired to lie to this girl's face. Teresa had seen that look before in her own mirror a long time ago. Teresa said, yes, something is wrong. And Vincent, he is going to fix it. And you and me, we are going to go somewhere else while he fixes it. Because if we stay here, we make it harder for him to fix it. You understand, is he in danger? Teresa did not answer. Teresa, is he in danger? He is in danger every day, Tesoro. But today a little more. Ivy pushed her plate away. She stood up. I need to see him. Baby, he said, I don't care what he said. Teresa, please. I need to see him. Just for 1 minute, just one. Teresa looked at her for a long moment. Then Teresa said, 1 minute. And if he is angry with me, you tell him I am 64 years old and I don't care. Ivy found him in the study. He was at the desk. He was loading a handgun. She stopped in the doorway. She had known, of course. She had known what he was. He had told her himself. But knowing a thing in the abstract and watching a man you have come to care about slide bullets into a magazine at 9 o'clock in the morning are two very different things. He looked up. He saw her in the doorway. His hand stopped. Ivy, who is it? He did not answer. Vincent, who is it? Who tried to kill you? He looked down at the gun. My brother, he said. The word landed in the room like a stone dropped into stow of water. Ivy walked into the room. She sat down in the chair across from his desk. She folded her hands in her lap. She did not speak for a long time. Then she said, Vincent, look at me. He looked. Is there any other way? No, are you sure? I have been sitting in this chair for 3 nights trying to find another way, Ivy. There isn't one. If I don't act, he acts, and he acts on you, on me. Yes, on you, because the report I got this morning says he has been watching you. He has people inside this house. He has cameras in your bedroom. Ivy went very, Ivy went very still. Cameras, I'm sorry. In my bedroom. Yes, Ivy closed her eyes. She was quiet for a long time. Then she opened her eyes and she looked at Vincent Castellano and she said in a voice he had never heard her use before, a voice that was not the voice of the broken woman under the bridge, a voice that was something else entirely. Then you do what you have to do, Vincent. You do it, and you come back. Because I did not drag you out of that river to have you die in this house. He stared at her. Ivy. What? I was going to send you away, I know, with Teresa, to a beach house. I know, I'm not going. Ivy, I'm not going, Vincent. I am done running. I ran from my father, I ran from my mother's grave. I ran from every shelter that kicked me out, and every cop that moved me along, and every door that shut in my face. I am done running. I am staying right here, in this house. And when you come back, I will be here. And if you do not come back, I will deal with whoever walks through that door instead of you. Do you understand me? Vincent Castellano. The devil of Manhattan stared at Ivy Sullivan, the 96-pound woman from under the bridge, and he understood finally that he was not in love. He was past love. He was somewhere much, much more dangerous than that. He stood up. He walked around the desk. He knelt down in front of her chair slowly like a man kneeling in church. He took both of her hands in his. He said very quietly, "When I come back, Ivy Sullivan, I am going to ask you a question. I am not going to ask it now because I do not want you to answer it out of fear. And I do not want you to answer it out of gratitude. I want you to answer it because you want to. So I am going to go do what I have to do, and I am going to come back, and then I am going to ask you. All right, all right. Promise me you'll be here. I promise." He kissed the back of her hand. Just once, the way a man might have done 100 years ago. Then he stood up and he picked up the gun and he walked out of the study. He did not look back. He did not see Ivy slide down out of the chair and onto the floor the second the door closed behind him. He did not see her cover her mouth with both hands so the sound would not travel. He did not see her whisper into the empty room the same 3 words over and over again. Come back, come back, come back. And 2 floors below in a pantry off the kitchen, Elena Vasquez, the woman with the cameras, the woman with the locked notebook, the woman who was not who she said she was, stood very still, and she listened to the footsteps of Vincent Castellano walking down the marble hall toward the front door, and she pulled a phone out of her apron pocket. She stared at the phone for a long time. Then she did something she had never in 14 years of doing this work done before. She dialed a number that was not the number she was supposed to dial. A voice picked up on the second ring. Vasquez, long time, I know. You calling in? Elena closed her eyes. I'm calling in, she said. I'm burning the op. I'm burning the cover. I need extraction for 2 people tonight, non-negotiable. A pause on the other end. 2 people. Vasquez. Who's the second person? Elena looked up at the ceiling of the pantry toward the room 2 floors above, where Ivy Sullivan was on her knees on the floor of Vincent Castellano's study with her hands pressed to her mouth. The second person, Elena said, is the girl. The voice on the other end of the phone was quiet for a long moment. Vasquez, say that again. You heard me, Marshall. I want extraction for the girl. Tonight, same package as me. Elena, the girl is not your op. The girl is not in the file. The girl is a civilian. I know what she is. Then you know what the answer is. Change the answer. Silence. Elena pressed her forehead against the cold pantry door. 14 years. 14 years she had played roles, worn other people's names, slept in other people's beds, laughed at jokes she did not find funny, and she had never broken protocol. Not once. Marshall, she said, listen to me. I have been inside this family for 14 months. I have enough on Anthony Castellano to put him away for the rest of his natural life. I have enough on 6 other men to roll this entire operation up in a week, and I will give you all of it. Every page, every tape, every name. But I am not walking out of this house without that girl. That is the deal. That is the only deal. Another long silence. Then the voice said, why Elena? Elena closed her eyes. Because she's innocent, she said. Because she walked into this the way I walked into this job at 24. Because somebody needs to get one person out of this clean, and if it's not her, it's nobody. And I can't live with that anymore. That's why. The voice was quiet for one more second. Then it said 2 hours, back gate, 1 vehicle. You bring her out on foot through the garden. Don't tell her what's happening until you're through the gate. If anything goes sideways, you abort and we run the emergency protocol. Are we clear? We're clear. Vasquez. Yeah, 14 years. I hope she's worth it. Elena thought of Ivy on the bedroom floor whispering to an empty room. Of Ivy at the table too thin to fill a chair. Of Ivy on her knees in a study pleading, come back, come back, come back into the palms of her own hands. She's worth it, Elena said. She hung up. 23 miles away in the basement of a restaurant that had been closed for renovations for 6 months and would remain closed for another 6, Anthony Castellano was holding a meeting that was about to be the last meeting of his life. He did not know that yet. He was explaining to 4 men who were being paid a great deal of money to listen exactly how the night was going to go. The estate, the back wall, the power grid, the guards. How many, where, when their shifts changed, which door his brother was likely to be behind, which bedroom Ivy was likely to be in. One of the 4 men was writing nothing down. One of the 4 men was asking the most questions. One of the 4 men had been a detective in a city an hour north for 19 years before he retired. One of the 4 men was Salvatore Rizzo's nephew. Sal had put him in that room 6 weeks ago, the way Sal had put men in rooms his entire career. Because Salvatore Rizzo had loved Vincent Castellano since Vincent was a 9-year-old boy at his father's knee, and Salvatore Rizzo did not trust Anthony, had never trusted Anthony, and had been quietly watching Anthony for the better part of a year. The nephew's name was Paolo. Paolo wore a wire. Paolo had been wearing a wire for 41 days. Paolo caught every single word. At 9:47 that night, 3 things happened at once. The first, Elena Vasquez knocked on the door of Ivy Sullivan's bedroom. The second, Anthony Castellano and 3 hired gunmen pulled up to the back wall of the estate in a black van with the headlights off, and they cut the power to the north side cameras exactly the way Anthony had planned it 6 weeks ago. The third, Vincent Castellano, 2 miles away, was sitting in the back of a Suburban, listening to a 41-day-old recording through a pair of headphones and learning for the first time exactly how badly his little brother had wanted him dead. Vincent took the headphones off very slowly. He handed them back to Sal. He said, "How long have you known?" 6 weeks. 6 weeks, Sal. Boss, I had to be sure. You were sure the first week. I was sure the first day, boss. But if I had come to you the first day, you would have gone and killed your brother the first day, and you would have spent the rest of your life not knowing if you killed him for something he actually did or something I made up. I was never going to do that to you. I needed a recording. I needed his voice. I needed him saying it, so that when you finally did what you had to do, you could do it knowing. Vincent looked out the window of the Suburban. Sal. Yes, boss, turn this car around. Boss, he is not at the restaurant anymore. He left the restaurant 90 seconds ago. If you have been listening to him for 41 days, you know he is not at the restaurant. He is on his way to the house. He is going to the house tonight. Sal's face went gray. Boss, Ivy is in the house, Sal. Oh my God. Turn the car around. The Suburban spun a U-turn in the middle of the highway, hard enough to put 2 of the men in the back seat against the windows. Back at the estate, Elena was already moving. She had knocked on Ivy's door, and she had said through the wood in a voice much lower and much steadier than any voice Ivy had heard her use before. Ivy, open the door. I am not who I said I was. I am here to get you out. You have 45 seconds to decide. Ivy opened the door in 9s. She was still dressed. She had not slept. Her eyes were red. She looked at Elena. Elena looked at her. Federal Ivy said, yes. How long? 14 months. Does Vincent know? No. Does Anthony know? No. Are you good at your job? Yes. Ivy studied her. A full 3 seconds of a homeless woman who had spent 3 years learning to read strangers in under a second. Then she said, all right, what do we do? We go out the back, through the garden, through the service gate. A car is waiting. We do not stop. We do not talk. We do not look at anybody. If somebody stops us, you let me do the talking. If somebody pulls a weapon, you get behind me. If I go down, you keep running. I'm not leaving Vincent, Ivy. I am not leaving him, Elena. You didn't come in here to rescue me. You came in here to save your conscience. I am not the thing that fixes your conscience. Vincent is on his way back to this house, and Anthony is on his way to this house, And if I leave right now, one of them is going to walk into a bullet, and I am not going to be the reason. Do you understand me? Elena's mouth opened. Then very slowly it closed. And Elena Vasquez, 14-year veteran, 4 languages, 3 confirmed kills, one of the best undercover agents the United States Marshal Service had ever fielded, laughed, one short, hoarse, disbelieving laugh. God help me, Elena said. All right, new plan. What's the new plan? The new plan is that a homeless woman and a federal agent are about to defend a Mafia estate against a hostile takeover. Does that sound about right? That sounds about right. Do you know how to use a gun? No. Have you ever fired one? No. Have you ever held one? Once. It was empty. Elena rubbed her face with both hands. Okay, she said. Okay. Change of plan. You are going to stay behind me. You are going to do exactly what I tell you. And when this is over, if we live through it, you and I are going to have a very long talk about decision-making, young lady. Yes, ma'am. Let's go. They met Teresa in the hall. Teresa took one look at Elena's face, and Teresa said in a voice that was not the voice of a housekeeper at all, "They are already inside, aren't they?" "How do you know that?" Elena said. "Because the dog stopped barking 2 minutes ago." Teresa said, "And my Lorenzo never stops barking unless somebody he knows is petting him. And the only people Lorenzo knows outside this house is Anthony." Elena closed her eyes. "Ladies," she said, "we are now officially behind schedule." Downstairs, Anthony Castellano walked through his brother's front door for what he believed was going to be the last time. 2 of his men were behind him. One was covering the back. Anthony had a pistol in his hand. He was calm. He had been waiting for this night for a long, long time, and now that it was here, it did not feel exciting. It felt like work. He was almost disappointed in himself. He called up the stairs. "Vinny, come on down, big brother. Let's talk this out like men." Nobody answered. "Vinny, I know you're up there. Your Suburban is gone, but I know you would never leave her here alone. So come on down." Silence. Anthony sighed. He said to the man behind him, "Go get the girl." The man started up the stairs. He got to the 4th stair. A voice from the top of the stairs said very quietly, "That's far enough." Anthony looked up. Elena Vasquez was standing at the top of the stairs with a Glock 19 in a 2-handed grip, and the look on her face was not the look of a woman who had ever worked in a kitchen in her life. The man on the 4th stair froze. Anthony blinked. "Elena," he said. "Put the gun down, Anthony." "Elena, sweetheart, what are you doing? I am asking you one time to put the gun down." Anthony started to laugh. It was not a real laugh. It was the laugh of a man whose entire understanding of his own life was being rearranged in front of him in real time and who had not yet caught up to it. You're a cop," he said. "Close enough. For how long?" "Long enough, Anthony." "Oh my God. Put the gun down." "Oh my God. 14 months. 14 months, Anthony, gun down." Anthony's face changed. The charm went out of it. The little brother's softness went out of it. What was left was the face that had ordered the cut on his brother's brake line, and the needle in the hospital, and 3 gunmen at the back wall tonight. He raised his pistol. 2 things happened in the next second and a half. Elena fired once. Center mass. Clean. And at the exact same instant, from the top of the stairs behind her, Ivy Sullivan, who had, per Elena's explicit instruction, been staying behind her, stepped out from behind her and threw. Ivy threw the only thing she had been able to grab off the hallway table on the way down a heavy cast-iron doorstop, shaped like a rooster, the weight of a good-sized brick. She threw it at the man on the stairs. The rooster hit him in the forehead. He went down backwards and down the stairs, and his gun went off once into the ceiling, and then he did not move again. Ivy stared at what she had just done. Elena, without taking her eyes off the man she had shot, or the second man who was now scrambling for cover behind the front door, said calmly, "Ivy, honey, what did I tell you? To stay behind you. And what did you do?" "I threw a chicken at a man." "It's a rooster." "I threw a rooster at a man." "We're going to work on this." A crash came from the back of the house. A second one. A third. The third man, the one who had been covering the back door, had been stopped by Teresa. Teresa had stopped him with an iron skillet. Teresa had grown up on a farm in the old country, and Teresa knew how to swing a skillet, and Teresa had swung it exactly twice. And the man at the back door was now face down on the kitchen floor with Lorenzo the dog sitting on his back, looking very pleased with himself. Teresa appeared at the foot of the stairs with the skillet still in her hand. Teresa said, "Dio mio, Elena, you shot him. I shot him. Is he dead? He's not going to be moving for a while. And Anthony is the one I shot." Teresa crossed herself. Then Teresa looked at Anthony, who was on the floor at the bottom of the stairs, alive, bleeding, conscious, looking up at all of them with an expression of pure, naked disbelief. And Teresa walked over to Anthony, and Teresa bent down, and Teresa said in a voice that was almost gentle, "Bambino, you were such a sweet boy. What happened to you?" Anthony started to cry. He was still crying when the Suburban came through the front gate at 50 miles an hour and skidded to a stop at the bottom of the steps, and the back door flew open, and Vincent Castellano was out of it before it had fully stopped moving. Vincent ran up the steps. He stopped in the doorway. He took in the scene in under a second, the man on the stairs, the skillet in Teresa's hand, Elena with the Glock, his brother on the floor, and the only thing that held any of his attention was the woman at the top of the stairs. "Ivy, I'm okay. Ivy, Vincent, I am okay. Everybody is okay, except him." She pointed at Anthony. Vincent walked to his brother. He knelt down. Anthony looked up at him. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then Anthony said in a voice very small and very far away, "Vinny, don't. Vinny, Anthony, don't. I know what you wanted." Anthony closed his eyes. "Am I going to die?" he said. Vincent looked at the wound. He looked at Elena. Elena gave a very slight shake of her head. "He's going to live." Vincent looked back down at his brother, and he made a choice right there that surprised even him. "No," he said. "You are not going to die, Anthony. You are going to live. You are going to live for a very long time, and you are going to live with what you did. You are going to go to prison, and you are going to have a very long time in a very small room to think about the brother who carried you on his shoulders through 3 Yankees games. That is what is going to happen to you." Anthony's face crumpled. "Vinny, please." "No, Anthony. Vinny, please, goodbye, Anthony." Vincent stood up. He walked up the stairs past Elena, past the Rooster doorstop on the floor until he was standing in front of Ivy Sullivan. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "I was going to ask you a question when I came back. I remember. I am going to ask it now." "Okay." He took a breath. "Not tonight," he said. "Not tomorrow. But someday. When you are ready, when you have decided what you want out of this life that has almost killed you 4 different times in 4 different ways. When all of this," he gestured downstairs at Anthony, "at everything is gone. When it is just you and me in a quiet house and a morning with nothing in it. Would you marry me, Ivy Sullivan? Not for gratitude, not for safety, not for anything but that I cannot imagine the rest of my life without you in it." Ivy looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but her mouth was steady. She said, "Vincent, before I answer, I have something to tell you, okay? I am not going to say yes tonight." His shoulders came down just a little. "Okay, I am not going to say yes tomorrow either, okay? I am going to go away for a little while. With Elena maybe, or with Teresa, or by myself. I am going to finish what I started before my life broke. I am going to go back to school. I am going to finish my nursing degree. I am going to become the person I was supposed to be before any of this happened. And then Vincent, when I am standing on my own 2 feet and nobody on this earth can say I married you because you pulled me out of a hole, then if you still want to ask me, you ask me again, and I will tell you what I decided." Vincent Castellano, who had not wept as a grown man wept. He nodded. He couldn't speak. "Is that all right?" Ivy whispered. That Vincent said when he could say anything is exactly right. 3 years later, at a small white church in a small green town in western Pennsylvania, not far from the little house where Margaret Sullivan had raised 2 children on a waitress's wages, Ivy Sullivan RN walked down an aisle in a dress she had paid for herself, with money she had earned herself, and she married a man in a dark suit who had waited 3 years and not complained once. Teresa cried in the front row. Elena Vasquez, who was now Elena, something else in a city that was not her city, sat in the back with a man from her office and an 11-month-old baby on her lap, and she smiled like a woman who had finally gotten one decision right. Sal Rizzo gave Ivy away because Ivy had asked him to, and Sal had wept about it for 2 days and then put on a tuxedo and walked her down the aisle like she was his own daughter. Anthony Castellano was not there. Anthony Castellano was in year 3 of a 47-year sentence in a federal facility in Colorado and would remain there until the day he died. Detective Michael Grady was there. He had driven 8 hours to come. He had not been invited exactly, but he had written Ivy a letter 6 months after the river, 2 pages long, about everything he had said to her under that bridge and everything he had realized since. And Ivy had written back, and they had written back and forth for 3 years. And when he showed up at the church, Ivy had hugged him for a full 15 seconds and said, "I forgave you a long time ago, Michael." He sat in the 3rd row and he cried into his handkerchief. And after the ceremony, when the guests had gone to the reception, Ivy and Vincent walked out behind the church to a small stone marker Ivy had asked Vincent to have placed there 6 months before. It was not a grave. There was no body. It was just a stone with a name on it. Thomas Sullivan, 1995 to 2014. Beloved brother, you did not drown alone. Ivy knelt down in front of it in her wedding dress. She put her hand on the stone. She said, "Tommy, I want you to meet my husband." Vincent knelt down beside her. He took off his hat. Ivy said softly, "I told you I would never be one of the 12 people, Tommy. I told you." Vincent put his arm around her. And Ivy Sullivan, who had once been dying under a bridge with plastic bags for gloves, who had once jumped into a freezing river for a stranger, who had once thrown a cast iron rooster at an armed man on a staircase, who had once sat in a hospital bed and told the most feared man in Manhattan that she came in free and she stayed free, closed her eyes and she smiled, and she said one last thing. She said, "Nobody ever saved me." She squeezed Vincent's hand. "I saved myself." And that is the truth of it. That is the whole truth of it, and the only truth that matters. A homeless woman pulled a mafia boss out of a sinking car on the coldest night of her life, and the world called him the one who saved her. The world was wrong. She saved him. She saved herself. And in the end, she walked out of that river carrying her own life in her own 2 hands, and she never ever put it down again.